One-to-one conversations with the UK graffiti writers you need to know. Writers before the fame, where it's all about style, getting up, and authenticity. Molotov Art and Paint Supplies proudly sponsor the Killer Keller podcast Graffiti Sweet Week special. 7 writers spread across 3 generations of UK graffiti. Headphones on, speakers up, and get ready for the conversation.
Come on, ma, please.
Syringes, water fight hinges. We love food for just to hit plenty. Oh look, oh no, watch them on them brain out. 30 to follow.
Killer Keller Fortified featuring Patoine. Available on all good music platforms now.
Instagram UK Frontline.
Beatbox created.
Killer Keller.
And we're here to talk about world music and street culture.
Killer Keller podcast.
Let's kick it off. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Killer Keller podcast. Subscribe, like, comment, pass around, share with your friends, you know. Live and direct, central London or as central as you need to be, you know the coup. I wander vicariously bumping into heroes. And we have another one here. Ladies and gentlemen, this is SKORE TRC, Goat Squad,
Yep.
Synchro.
Yep.
I mean, you know, this is a man that I've seen growing up as a young man, as a young boy to a man. So thank you for passing through.
Nice one, mate. Good to meet you again.
Yeah, again.
I've bumped into you over the years, but yeah, it's good to hook up again.
Yeah.
Saw you the other week, so
we
chatted about doing this. And
Yeah. We talked about it, didn't we? And it's funny how we were just talking before we went on air that, you know, that you hit a peak in your career where you're like, hey, I'm just going to say yes to everything. I was so surprised when you were like, yeah, I'm up for it. You know?
Yeah. That's just been my mentality the last couple of years to just. I say yes before I even think about it. You know, if people come up with an idea or do you want to go to this country or paint this place, I'm just going to say yes to things. Because, you know, a lot of people have been sort of disappearing the last few years. We're all kind of getting to that age where you either sort of fade or you just hit it a little bit harder. And I've just gone for the latter, I think. Yeah, I've just really been just trying to make it count, I guess. Yeah.
And with that repetition comes the creative strength, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like the more you do it, the more you...
Definitely, yeah. Yeah, the passion sort of builds, really. You know, like with graffiti, you do, you know, I'll sit there and sketch, and when I've got drawings, or if somebody suggests something, that will make me want to sketch and then paint, you know, and it just one feeds into the other. If somebody says, I want to go here for a few days and we're going to paint this and that, then straight away that starts firing me, thinking about colours, letters, you know, characters, everything, you know, and I
love that.
I'm just buzzing off it, yeah.
All right, I'm going to fast forward real quick, right, because I just want to know. So what are the buzzwords that flick your switch when it comes to being inspired? Like where does your mind go when you're thinking about doing your standard greatness? What were you thinking?
One of the things that really I buzz off is the people that are kind of asking me to paint. So the person you paint with, the collaboration is a massive buzz. Like I probably only paint with maybe 10 different people regularly, but each of those people bring something quite different. So straight away I'll be thinking about that person's style and what style will work well with them, and then where we're going to paint, if it's going to be like a big wall, a quick thing, something at night, if it's, you know, whatever it's going to be, then that's another thing that you think about, you know, because obviously if you're working in low light, then you have to be contrast, you know, colours so you can see what you're doing. In the daytime, you know, I'm not one of these people that will paint a wall for 6 hours now. No. I've kind of got to that age where I like to do things fast and loose and quite spontaneous.
Is that for momentum, or is that to do more than one piece at a time?
For me, maybe it's age as well, a little bit, you know, because I'm not prepared to...
Come forward a little bit with that mic. Just so
I'm not prepared to sort of sit for hours and hours and hours at a wall like I would have done years ago. I would have, and I think paint's got faster as well, so I can do things with modern paint that would have taken twice as long years ago.
It's upgraded.
Yeah.
Since like maybe I remember Kings and Toys, and I remember like that documentary. It was as of that point there when you started seeing who was it? It was the cat from Germany. Who was the cat's name?
Lumit?
Lumit.
Was it Lumit? Yeah.
Yeah, it was Lumit.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, it was almost like, as soon as I saw that, and then all of a sudden, it was the caps themselves, it was the paint, it was everything.
That is the caps as well, yeah. And the pressure, that you can get low or high pressure cans. So if you want to do something fast, you can buy a higher pressure. If you're doing a canvas, you can get like quite a low pressure. Yeah. Then you get the different caps. So you go from like an ultra skinny to an ultra wide. And yeah, and you get soft caps or fast caps as well as width. It's kind of the sort of the pressure it hits the wall.
Oh, so for something like a canvas, for instance,
you can have a thin line and a slow pressure.
Wow.
A soft pressure, so that you can move your hand slower as well as the thinner line. So it's a combination of pressure and line width.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Do you see, like, I'm really jumping into this now, right? Because we normally have like a background chat. I'm going straight into loads of different things. Like, so when you're with like some of the peers, some of the people that inspire you, do you see, like, with the strength of caps, the variety of caps and the variety of paints, do you, as a writer and a fan of theirs, do you see their styles changing and altering over the years?
Yeah, you do.
Do you?
Yeah.
Who's the most significant that you've seen, like, change with the technicality of the new brands?
Question, really. Hard to, I can't really think of anyone specifically that's really changed their style. You just notice some people kind of style. You can just tell the paint they use and how they would approach a wall. Like, there's some writers that are very technical, and they will paint for 8 to 10 hours on a wall, and everything will be cut back really neatly, and it's got an almost airbrush kind of effect. You don't really see a natural line.
No.
And then you've got other writers that
like super smooth. Like,
you cut one colour, like you'll cut a colour and then you'll take the next colour almost up to it, which creates a very thin line, or almost with like a 3D artist, somebody like Love Pusher, for example, he'll cut right, you won't even see the line, it was just constantly dusting colours over colours, so there's no outline, and it all just looks like a 3D object.
That's crazy.
Then you've got other writers who are completely anti-modernity, and they will buy the shittest paint.
Really? To see what they can get out of them.
And also, they like that naive style. So there's a whole naive style graffiti, which some people have called hipster graph, but I think that's kind of not always the case. But there's like a naive, like there's some great people that use stock caps that have a great style. There's a guy, Rain Man, that I paint with a lot, and he has what you'd call he'd probably find it an insult for someone to call it a naive style, or because his style is really cool. It's almost like a sort of a comic book / rockabilly /
He's like rockabilly.
Yeah. It's like he's just got a mad sort of comic style, but he paints it with a stop cap, which gives it a sort of a. It's really, if you see it, it looks rough when you see it up close, but when you stand back, it gives it loads of character. It looks like spray paint. It has a real raw element to it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
There were other writers that stuck out and still kind of do, just for simplicity. Well, the simplicity of something, but actually is quite hard to do. Like Memo, he was like really like tough on the block letters, wasn't he?
Yeah.
And then there was this guy from Brighton called Dean. Do you remember him?
Yeah, I remember Dean. Yeah.
He had a real simple style. I guess it must have been really hard to not go any further than that.
Yeah, I think both Memo and Dean were big trackside guys. Yeah. And to see your name going past on a train, you have to paint simple and big. So their style had developed to their niche, I guess. Do you know what I mean? Like Dean also did a lot of rooftops, I think. Similar thing. Yeah. So if you're looking up high, you need clarity to read the name. And also, if you've got one simple logo style, it's instantly recognisable even if you can't read it, because you know the letters. Yeah.
I used to have people that didn't know Graff would be going, have you seen that Dean guy?
Yeah.
Gatwick, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. It's a bit like Tox, I guess. When Tox blew up, they had a TV show like Who is Tox, all this guy. Because his handwriting was so simple, that members of the public would talk about Tox. So there's a whole element to kind of a very simple style that's really sort of, you get a lot of kudos for, because the public read it.
Yeah, they're able to read it.
Yeah.
I could, correct me if I'm wrong, but Elk
Yeah.
often flits. I've seen some of his pieces which are super simple, and I've seen other stuff that is like very London.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Some of his more complicated stuff. There's a really famous piece that another guy did the outline for him. So some of the more complicated stuff maybe is other people adding elements to his work.
That's awesome.
Yeah. A lot of guys do that. Like we'll do each other an outline, and it kind of takes your style in another direction. And
This is super news to me.
yeah. So, but Elk had a very blocky style, but it was quite developed because his fill-ins were had like a blocky almost not a checkerboard but squares sort of.
Right.
It was all blocks, stripes, and squares, and quite graphic.
Yeah.
And he became quite well known for it, I guess. Him and Ben Ein kind of were both developing a similar thing.
Yeah.
At a certain point, yeah.
Well, then, let's backtrack a little bit, because when I was like from about the age of like 14 to 18, coming up to London, just trying to, hiding in toilets, jumping through barriers, trying to get through the weekend without having to go back down to Sussex. That's originally from. Like, I used to roll relatively tightly with the FKF lot.
Yeah. Krell, Scare, Rev, those guys. Yeah.
All those guys.
Yeah.
Your name would come up, obviously, being from the area you was from.
Yeah.
And my scene, my beatboxing being quite a very specific style of hip hop.
Yeah.
I kind of gravitated more towards graffiti and DJing and things like that because there was no beatbox scene.
Yeah.
Your name would come up so many times.
Yeah.
Through like the scratch perverts and people like that. And
and
once you get the name, you start seeing it about. And like one thing, it was always about the blockbuster.
Yeah.
Massive wall of fame pieces that you used to be a part of.
Yeah. Well, I had a big link with Brighton when the FKF guys were most active. I used to paint with Nima and Fire, who also used to paint with Krell. So there was a whole link. I mean, there's a famous train yard near their place called Three Bridges.
Yeah.
Everyone used to go to Horsham. A lot of the spots, a lot of writers were doing the same spots.
Yeah.
So writers would naturally, in the end, team up. Otherwise, you'd be turning up and the other guy had done it, So there was a lot of ties between Crawley and Brighton and us guys in Kent as well, all linking in into the Brighton scene.
Yeah.
For a few years, Brighton was like a big style capital when London kind of became a little bit anti-style. There was a couple of years where it became... style was coming from outside of the capital. In my opinion, I mean, London guys would probably disagree with that, but I mean, because London was always like the king of style up until kind of the early 90s, and then Brighton kind of exploded, and Bristol and Nottingham and some of these other scenes became really
Nottingham
big.
smashed it.
Yeah, there's some really big scenes from other areas of the country.
Yeah, and Manchester.
Yeah, Manchester. Yeah, there's a couple of guys.
What was that event that used to go on in Manchester?
Hume, the one at Hume.
Yeah.
Yeah. I went up there with all my guys, but to all of those, it was crazy. They were
it's
knocking
crazy,
down the huge housing estates at the time, and one of the guys up there had permission. It was almost like a massive squat party, like Mutant Waste were up there, and they were running zip wires from the top of the flats and making, all the metal kind of things they used to build. And it was just like a mad sort of warehouse come squat rave kind of graffiti, the whole estate kind of thing.
Wow,
But
that's crazy.
I remember when I went up there, it was the first time I'd seen... I mean, we think we have poverty down here, but I remember going into the shop and them selling single cigarettes and single eggs.
Wow.
And just thinking, okay, this is a pretty poor area. Do you know what I mean?
Wow. Yeah,
it was mad. And I stayed at my friend's house, and the door was about 2 inches thick, metal door, and you just think, this is a serious place. Yeah.
Kent had obviously like yourself, Oka was from around there, right? And then Brighton way, you had like Arrow and all those guys. Nima had this whole style thing popping off, didn't he?
Yeah.
Like crazy pavilion-looking letters and things.
Yeah.
And then you came slowly up towards past Three Bridges, you get to the FDC areas.
Yeah, Croydon sort of area, yeah.
And all that. I mean, I know you don't come from my definition of golden era. But I had this conversation with Drax. It's like, because I kind of came in peak then, I just put everybody under the same.
Yeah. You sound like you're talking sort of mid-90s.
Yeah, that's right.
From Nima's Pyramid era was, 95, 96, I'm guessing, yeah. But yeah, I mean, I was in London from before graffiti. I kind of gravitated. You probably did yourself. I was just one of those guys who was seeking out scenes, I suppose, you know, and before hip-hop it was two-tone scenes or, you know, all these kind of scenes, new wave, so a little bit of reggae as well, like sound system. It was all these things that I was just kind of like going uptown for the casual clothing, and then graffiti kind of exploded, really. And you know, myself and First Rate, MC Self and Gutter Snipes.
Big up DJ First Rate. Oh, Gutter Snipes, man.
Yeah, all of us were all from this small town, and it's weird looking back. I was chatting to somebody at the weekend, and he goes, you guys were like some of the other guys in our little crowd, you know, you was in a pressure situation. You had like the best DJ, the best MC, you know, the best writers, the best this, and we're all from the same school, you know, and I think we fed each other, even though we did different elements.
I had no idea. That's so cool.
Yeah, like we would like be hitting cell to just improve all the time. First Rate, like he'd be practicing 8 hours a day. That he'd be every time I went painting, First Rate came with me. Every time he did a set, we'd go with him. You know, we all supported each other, and it was just mad creative time, really.
Yeah, no, I mean it happens like that. There's little kind of like. Who was I talking to there? Pav from Foreign Beggars. He was saying, you know, when you're from outside of a city where everything's arm's length, your ambition takes over. Yeah, and what you think is the right thing to do, just you're forcing yourself to just be the best you can be, because there ain't nobody that's in us. You know,
there's no one to compete with where we were. There was people on the lines, but we wanted to compete with the very best from the very get go. You know. To the point where it caused problems for all of us at different points.
Really?
Do you know what I mean? I was chased out of place and dogged out and had my paint taken. First Rate had his deck smashed up and thrown off of stages, and you know, like you know, they had, you know, Cell had record deals and got shortchanged, and you know, all of us were just push, you know, and we were all getting, no, you can't do this, you know, and you're just like, well. You know, we were forced to be reckoned with, and we're just gonna keep knocking on the door. You know,
that's the coolest story. You know,
we were just all of us were just we just had a drive. We were mad passionate to do it, I think, and it seems mad looking back. I don't know, kids today with the internet, and this is an old guy looking at the modern scene, but there's less of a need to be at the right time at the right place now, because it's all on your computer. Yeah. So for us, we had to be at the right jams. We had to buy the right paint, find the right paint, talk to the right people, see walls and trains in the flesh. You know, a lot of it now is, I guess, is a bit like a bedroom DJ. You know, you can be a bedroom writer almost, or a bedroom MC. You can put all your stuff on YouTube and that can be your career, and you can be huge from your bedroom.
The sheep in wolf's clothing.
Yeah.
When I think of your style and your work, I correct me if I'm wrong, but you walk that very fine line of legal and illegal, and your style doesn't differ either way. It's like if you're doing something illegal, it still looks like it still slams.
Yeah.
But when you're doing it on a wall, it's still the same. It's like the level.
Yeah.
And I've always fucking seen it, man. I've always seen it on your stuff. It's just like constant bar high.
Yeah.
Like, how have you managed to keep that integrity through both sides of the coin? It's a good question, Nick. Let's see we go.
Okay. Well, I think whatever I paint, I try and sort of bring my A game to a point. I mean, I will go out and do like a lazy wall here or there, but I'll still make that within a time frame. You know, be as good as I can get it. And I'm not talking about like, I'm not like a neat freak or anything like that. I do like to just get it up and then leave the mistakes, kind of thing. But I do try and maximise what I do for impact and things when I do it. So, you know, maybe if somebody else is doing a piece, I want to do a piece and a character. or I want a concept. A lot of people just do a piece and a cloud around it. I want to do a full background, even if it means spending less time on my fill, because to me the impact's more, you know, because that takes you to the next level. So I'm always, and I approach every wall like a battle in a sense. And you don't win every day, but you always kind of.
You can see that though.
Yeah,
Your
but
characters,
at the same time,
your characters. I remember your characters so well. Like, and I think you got this because this is how I got it.
Yeah.
That it was the secondary was learning the names of the people, but if you've been engaged by a wicked character, you want to learn the name of the artist.
Yeah,
right?
definitely. Yeah. I think you see it, especially online now, for people who fiend for likes. If you do a character, everybody will take a photo of it, and it'll end up everywhere. You know, I guess that's why street art's taken off like it has. It's more accessible to the public, whereas a semi-wild style or wild style piece has a limited audience.
Yeah, it does.
But at the same time, that's where the lifeblood of graffiti is in lettering styles.
Right. But it's a gateway, isn't it?
Yeah, but the character brings you in. And the character adds attitude to a piece, I think. If you've got a character that's giving it some hands pointing at the piece, gesturing, it just adds that little. And I like people who put like a message on a piece. You know, even if it just says, I don't know, funky, fresh or something. You know, it's engaging with the public as well.
That's right.
You know, if you put a little message on your piece, I love people who do stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know, not just a piece and tag it and put the date and maybe a couple of shout outs and a crew. I like people who put like a message, you know, add a bit of cloud, stick a message on, stick a character on. They're the sort of people that catch my eye, you know, not these neat freaks who do the same outline over and over again, but it is the same thing. And I'm probably different to a lot of people because those guys generate a lot of, you know, they do all the festivals, all the things, because they do one simple thing.
Yeah.
It's really noticeable. But to me, I notice the guys that, you know, you can spend 3 hours on a wall and the things you do in the last 10 minutes, to me, those little 5-10% things are what make the piece.
Defining.
Yeah. Those little extras.
Yeah.
You know, it's probably the same if you produce a track. You know what I mean?
Of course. Yeah, the devil's in the detail.
Yeah, the little bits right at the end, just those little like highlighty bits. You're just like, that's just taking it to the next level.
Do you think that's why, like, with a lot of the experienced like train writers and whatnot, like getting down to the nitty gritty detail? Do you think they reflect first on what the details are going to be when they go on and do trains? Do you think?
When you paint a train, it's kind of less about what you paint, and there's so much to it now with the whole mission, like how you're going to get in, which train you're going to paint, which bit of the yard, what's going to be there that night when you turn up. Sometimes you don't know. So a lot of it is quite spontaneous. So, and you don't know how long you've got. You know, you've got, like years ago, we would go to the yard and we'd have a 2 hour window where you could paint what you like. Now, people are doing a lot of what they call back jumps, so the thing is still in traffic.
Yes.
So that's like 10, 15 minutes. Or they'll do, there's a thing called an emergency stop, where somebody gets on a train and pulls the lever, leaves the station, and then the train's frozen for 10 minutes. People will come in and paint it.
Do the other side where
the back of it, yeah. And sometimes the driver will come round knowing what you're up to and start screaming at you, but he's not going to get onto the track, so it's all kind of high octane. Yeah. And people love all that, you know, or they'll go into the tunnels, or train painting is so varied these days. It's kind of, back when I painted in this country, we'd either do an 8 to 10, which is like after the rush hour, early evening, when the rush hour trains pull in. And then you do the all-nighter, which is after 1 when everything's in the yard. The cleaners then you have to wait for the cleaners to leave and then go in between 2 and 4.
Oh, so you got a 4 hour window there?
Not really, because they'll clean trains till 2 probably.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
And then there'll be movement at least by 5. So,
it crosses my mind. I mean, maybe not so much now, but back in the day, for sure, when you're rolling out with like so many people, was there ever like a moment where anyone that came across you while you were doing it, they're totally outnumbered? There must be a strength in like teammanship.
Yeah.